Hello. This week, I wanted to have a chat about some RPGs. I've decided to start with Star Wars. This is the current one I'm playing at the moment. Now, note that, of course, this is the old Fantasy Flight one. They are getting printed by someone else now. I can't remember the company name, but our DM is actually using one of those copies, and so far we haven't found any differences. So, as far as I can tell, it's the exact same game. Now, obviously, for genre and theme and such, it's Star Wars. You know it. You like it or you don't. That's about the summary of it. I don't know why you would pick up this game if you don't want to play a Star Wars campaign, but if you do, certainly the best version I've seen and the best version I've played. And I've played some of the old D20 versions. Now, obviously, as you can see, this is Age of the Rebellion. There are a few versions of these books. The core mechanics remain the same. It's mainly classes change and some of the ideas. I found this version good for when you want to do some scrappy rebel sort of campaigns or some spy intrigue campaigns and espionage were quite fun. But I'd also note for core mechanics, obviously this uses the Genesis system, mainly involving around these dice. Now, I've never actually played pure Genesis, so how much of these rules are Genesis rules beyond the dice, I can't actually tell you. But what I can say is it takes a bit to get used to reading these dice. But once you do, they actually become really valuable. So if anyone doesn't know, you have positive and negative dice. And on your positive dice, you'll have successes and advantages. And on your negative dice, you have failures and disadvantages. And what you'll do is add, when you roll your dice, you'll take everything. Successes cancel failures, disadvantages cancel advantages. So these cancel each other out, leaving one success. But you can get more interesting results. Let's say I failed this roll, but I've got an advantage. So something good has happened, but not necessarily what I was trying to achieve. As I said, it takes a little bit to get used to, especially when you roll a bunch of these dice, learning to sort of add and minus what gets cancelled out. But at the end of the day, it leads to much more intriguing dice rolls than the past failure of most D20 systems. And much more in line with more modern RPG design. Versions of the book. So, overall, the other things, I think the system does quite well. So equipment is purely a slot mechanic. An item will take up one slot, two slots. Now these cards I designed myself to track it. It's quite nice having a straight visual memorizer to be like, that's this character's things. I know he has a free slot for something. And I also quite like the character classes. So you get abilities, they all weave their way down. Now most of the core book ones are pretty interconnected and straightforward, where some of the supplements can get a bit more interesting in the way that this one comes down, spirals, and comes back up. So there's got some good abilities that are quite cheap, but you have to buy all these other abilities first to get to it. But on characters, I find one of the things we found were making characters was quite difficult. The book overall, as though once you're up and running, we found it quite nice to play and quite intuitive. Actually learning those rules from the book was quite difficult. The way it's laid out, the way it's explained, just didn't really gel with our group. The way you calculate how much experience it costs to buy skills or buy stats, I think could have been just a straight chart, which would have been much easier to read. And a lot of the things are the same way. That's just the way the book's laid out. I just not a fan of, but it's more of a speed bump getting to a very good game than it is just a bad game being badly explained. But I thought about giving these things a review, how many Death Stars out of 10 or whatever. But thinking about it, especially with RPGs, I think it comes down to your group. Like, I've played some pretty bad RPGs, but in a good group, and we had a great time. And I think that's a great summary of these things. So overall, I think if you want to play a Star Wars game, this is a great system to do it with. If you don't want to play a Star Wars game, probably maybe even look at just the pure Genesis system, which is much like GURPS in a real baseline to do whatever you want with it. So I wanted to start these RPG reviews with something quite common to give a sort of baseline. I think much like even game or movie reviews, how much you gel with the review and how much you agree with them changes a lot on how you value that review. So I'm hoping you'll take away from this understanding sort of how our opinions align, especially as we go into future reviews. But for now, I think that's me, Captain Steel, signing out.